Today marks the last official public service held at Asbury University following a decision made to move the outpouring of the nonstop worship service that began all the way back on February the 8th. They're going to move it off campus. Beginning tomorrow, services available to the public will be held at another location in the central Kentucky area. But the events of the past couple of weeks have many asking, how should Christians respond to the spiritual thirst in our nation for revival? I've gotten reports over the weekend of lines getting into the chapel being a half-mile long. And I talked about this yesterday. I had the opportunity to preach at Jefferson Baptist Church. And by the way, Saul spoke to a number of Washington Watch listeners that came and joined us yesterday. But can you imagine if every church in America that there was a line a half-mile long just to get into the door to fill a seat? I mean, there are people that have been driving across the country to go to Asbury to experience what God was doing there. That tells me there's a hunger. There is a hunger in America. Why is it not being met in our local churches? We're going to talk about that. But first, joining me now to discuss is Brent Keilen, Vice President of FRC Action, who traveled to Wilmore, Kentucky over the weekend to witness and participate in the chapel service. Brent, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you, Tony. Good to be with you again.
All right, so tell us what you saw there on the campus in Wilmore, Kentucky.
Tony, just a really incredible thing to be able to participate in and to be able to experience just a really neat spirit about the event. My wife and I drove down on Saturday afternoon. We got there late on Saturday night, probably 10:30. And even that late at night, there was a line, must have been hundreds of people still in line to get into the auditorium there. There are other people just on the grounds there singing, praising, worshiping. We came back the next morning and we got there probably 10 in the morning already. I'm guessing probably a couple thousand people on the campus already at that point. And this was where the services weren't starting till 2 in the afternoon. So these people were there hours and hours ahead of time. I bumped into a lady there actually who has been a volunteer, been there for years, and she just kind of walked us through what it's been like for them behind the scenes. This is a town, Wilmore, Kentucky. I'll be honest, Tony, I had not heard of this place even just a couple weeks ago. It's normally 6,000 people. She said at some points in this revival, they've added 18,000 people, or some of the reports more recently are even higher than that. So it's just busting at the seams. We got to be there and participate in the service, the worship, the singing yesterday. Again, just an incredible spirit, also an incredible focus. I think God has given the leadership there a lot of wisdom. I heard multiple times yesterday, they said, we want to focus on something. This is not about Asbury University. We're just hosting this. This is about Jesus Christ. That's the focus. And again, Tony, just awesome to be able to be a part of it yesterday.
Brent, what were some of the conversations that you were having in line? I know you're standing there for hours in these lines. What were people talking about?
Tony, it was just really neat. And I'll say even the people you were talking to, I mean, really struck me. We had babies, we had grandparents, we had teens, people from all across the country. Some of the people I met were from Illinois, Mississippi, Colorado, again, other nations. And people just, I think if I were to sum it up in one word in the conversations we were having, Tony, it was hunger. And you mentioned that earlier, just a really deep hunger and excitement about what God was doing. I bumped into one guy and he said, hey, can I ask you what's one word you would use to summarize what you've seen so far here today? And I said, exciting. And he said, I've asked this to a whole bunch of people here, and the 3 words that I've heard the most are peaceful, sweet, and awesome. And just, I think that summarizes it really well, Tony. Just a really sweet, really peaceful, but really awesome atmosphere and awesome conversations there.
Well, Brent, thanks so much for joining us today. Encouraging to hear, and praying that, as Dr. Brown and others were saying, that they were just hosting the Holy Spirit there, and that this is going to be moving across the country. Brent Keilen, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.